yes, I usually work from photos, and I'll show you why, because the painting I'm gonna demo today is this one, which I've already done some underpainting on. Okay, so it's just a pumpkin, a flower I threw on my back deck, grabbed a couple of leaves off the lawn, and put it together. So I've already done the most of the wood on the bottom, underpainting on the pumpkin, a couple of these, and a little bit of this. So that way you won't be here all night, because that could take me days. I mean, I've spent up to 2 weeks on a painting. Not this size, this is a pretty small one. But, thank you. Anyway, and you notice I asked Bev to get me warm water.
It's warm enough?
Yeah, my cat fell in. I use warm water because it activates your paint much quicker. I spray my watercolors before I get started. So, before I paint, I take my warm water in my little misto bottle-y thing here, and I spritz my colors. Because I want to activate these, and if you use warm water, they activate a lot quicker.
Are those originally tubes, or are those just like a...
These are tubes. And this is my little palette system. I take out just the colors I want, and I stick them in. I have 2 containers that are full. They're little flat plastic airtight boxes.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
You have the Robax?
It's like not that one at the round, but I have a sealed like tray almost.
Okay, but that's a spot through here. I always carry my blow dryer because I always need it. That I will be using soon. So, because I paint from a photo, when I'm working on this, right, and I decide I need to work on that stem, I can do that, okay? So I can see it close up. If I'm working from life, I'm just seeing what I can see. So I prefer working from photographs personally. Paper towels, gotta have them. Have to be Viva. This is the only thing I use is Viva. They are soft, they're absorbent, there's no indentations on them. When you have a wet wash and you take a piece of Bounty and you do that, you leave polka dots. Sometimes the cheaper ones will even leave ink. It'll transfer if you have a print onto your thing. So the pure white and these nice thick cushy ones are perfect. I get select a size, cut them in thirds. Because a lot of times when I'm painting, I've got one in my hand. Okay, so I'm painting with this hand and I've got a paper towel ready to go. Because if I need to blot something, it's right there. Also, get this on the right side. My paints and my water stay on my right, and a little pile of these is in front of my water. Because every time I go in that bucket and get some water, I'm tapping off my brush. I lay off the color. Now I use silver paintbrushes. It's probably dirty. I never wash them half the time. When I go into my water, when I come off, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna turn it, and I'm gonna lay off the water, okay? I don't wanna go from here into my paint, because I'm just gonna have really diluted paint. So why do that? If I just go with a little bit of water, and then touch one of my paints that are now activated, I'll just grab this paper to show you. Because it's activated, all I have to do is barely touch it, and I get pure color, right? Because this is already damp. It's ready for me. Okay, so it's happy. So again, so I did that. It's a habit. I do it every single time. Also, there's times when I do want just about pure pigment. If my brush is just about dry and I just touch the tip, it's almost black. There's my pure pigment, okay? From there, if I want it to be thinner, all I can do is go beside it and I can drag it around. But that pure pigment gives me a lot of opportunities to get different values, right? And I don't want to take and mix my colors over here. I'm going to mix my colors here. So I'm going to show you where I'm at. I didn't get my painting. So this is what I started.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, this is what I started. I started last week. And then I've been sitting there looking at it going, I want to work on that, but I can't. So once I got to this stage, I had to quit. So if you'd like to bring your chairs up or walk around, you certainly may. I have to paint flat because it's going to drip otherwise. So what I've done so far is I've done an underpainting on my pumpkin. I've done an underpainting on these leaves. This one I actually started working up. This one is still just my underpainting. This one, I didn't really do an underpainting. I did put a little bit of masking though. There's little blue dots on the side of my, inside of my sunflower. Okay, I use 2 different types of masking. Usually, I use Grumbacher Misket. It has orange sediment on the bottom. When you mix it up, it turns peach. Okay, so when it's peach, you gotta get all that sediment off though. If you shake it up and you go to dip your brush in it, all you get's a pile of bubbles. Like terrible bubbles. You can't use it. But if you get a little pill cup, get a whole package, you get the Dollar Tree. There's like 20 of them in a package. If you take it and you pour it out, the bubbles stay here. It comes out from the bottom. So now I can close this up so it's not going to dry. And I've got no bubbles, or almost none. Now I have a brush. I've been using this brush for masking for 8 years. I hate it when people tell me, every time I use a masking brush, I throw it away. 8 years. It's softer than the day I got it. And it came from a package of like 40 brushes that were like $2.99. It's garbage. So, with that said, the reason it's so nice is because I have Dawn. So what? Dawn dishwasher detergent, dish detergent. I dip it in my Dawn, and then I take my brush and I make sure it's worked in really well. I usually just put a drop in between the section in my sink, where the little V is in the front, where the 2 sinks come together. I put a drop right there. I work this in there, and I leave that dot right there because when I'm done, that's where I wash it. And my students wash my whole sink for me without even knowing it, so it's a scam. So, but with this, I can come in now, and if I want to put some masking, I don't know, say I want to put a few more little dots in here, I can come in and just put a few little dots. Or I can do long straight lines. I can do lots of different things with this. So that's one way of masking. My other wonderful favorite way is with a ruling pen. So if you have a ruling pen, if you don't, they're on Amazon. There's a 3-pack for like $6.99. That little mouth in there holds your masking fluid. So if I'm doing an ocean scene, I'm out plein air painting, and there's white masks everywhere, all I have to do is take my ruling pen. When you lay it down, you've got to make sure that mouth is open to the paper, which means the 2 ends are down. I can do nice long straight lines with this, okay? Or even if it's a curly line, I mean, I can do anything I want with this, and it's gonna hold quite a bit. I tip that especially. I can go a long way, okay? I think I just threw a drop. So this is a really wonderful tool. If you're doing, I did a thing with an old man with a big white beard, and I used this for all my masking on the hairs. So it worked out really, really well. So with that said, here, we'll make a little boat. Make a boat while I'm at it. So here's my little boat. I'll turn it into an ocean later. So that's another way of masking. A new fun favorite way, a masking pen.
Oh, nice.
Comes in 2 different sizes. They're on Amazon. They're like $10.99. Okay, I use that. That's the blue inside there. So this is a very pale peach on this up here, which I like because I find it's very unintrusive. Some of the colors are like a deep gray or a darker blue. I don't want to see that. But if you notice, I did put black tape. I like black tape. What this black tape does for me is it says you need to build your darkest values up to there, right? So where my darks are, this is going to give me a range. If it's just white all the way around with white tape, I don't feel like it's helping me. This actually helps me.
What is that mounted on?
This is it's a corrugated plastic. I buy a big sheet of it on Amazon again. This one's just cut down for a half sheet. I have big ones for full sheets, which is usually what I work on, but it doesn't weigh anything. So when I'm working on a full sheet, I gotta turn that thing around a lot because I can't reach up there. My arms aren't that long.
So you don't use foam core or anything?
No, this is washable. This was super dirty on this side today, I washed it before I taped it on it.
Okay.
Okay, so it's plastic, it's not gonna get hurt. I will say with a full sheet, if you're a full sheet painter like I am, the big ones tend, if you're doing it really wet into it, might warp a little bit while you're working on it. But then when you untape it, it kind of goes back to normal again. Or you flip it over and use the other side next time. I mean, it's two-sided. I've actually done one on one side and one on the other before.
Do
So-
you stretch your paper when you're
I do not.
before you work on it?
I just tape it. Yeah, I'm not a stretcher.
What weight do you use?
This is 140 because I bought sheets. Normally I use 156 because I buy rolls.
Okay.
Was it you that asked? I didn't know where they came from. I usually buy the rolls, and they're 156 pound, which is crazy because it feels like it's somewhere between 140 and 300,
Yeah.
but it's only a little bit higher in
But
density.
you don't have to use 300.
I don't like 300. I don't like the way it behaves. It just doesn't feel right to me.
It's very expensive.
It's expensive and I'm not crazy about it. So you notice I just poured that back in. So I didn't waste any. When this dries, I can peel it right out. Okay? Matter of fact, this one with the stuff in it had all dried up orange in it today, and I just peeled it out and stuck my soap in it for travel. If you notice, everything I have has pink tape on it. That's so my students don't go home with all my supplies. And my brushes, because most of my students love these brushes too now. Whatever I buy, they buy. So I steal theirs more than they steal mine, believe it or not, because I'm always demoing for them. So with that said, I got to do something here, don't I? So here's my picture. Before I do anything, I'm going to put a quick wash. I didn't do an undercoating on this, and I actually messed up the shape when I was doing that, but I don't care. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little wash on the center of this flower. I'm not going to be really careful over there, but I might be careful on this side. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tone my water so you can see it. So I go around these petals. I'm just wetting my paper, but why not wet it with color? Right? It's going to be darker than that anyway. So if I add some color, you can see where I'm going.
What color are you using for that?
I don't know what I grabbed. Queen Burn Orange probably? Yep, Queen Burn Orange. Most of these are Daniel Smith. I didn't really want Queen Burn Orange, but that's okay. But I also love a lot of the Winsor Newton colors that I can't live without. I can't live without Winsor Red. I can't live without Winsor Blue. Can't live without Winsor Violet. But I'm already starting to get some color. And you can kind of see my underpainting. And I call this and this my mapping. Okay, this is an underpainting for my pumpkin. So why not have fun and throw lots of fun colors in there and let them mix on their own. Now normally, you see people and they're taking 2, 3 colors and they're mixing over here to get the color they want on their paper, right? I don't do that. Mostly everything I mix is on my palette. So right now, if I want this to go a little yellower in the center, which I know I need to, yeah, all up here. I just took some Quin Gold. Throw a little Quin in there, right? I know it's going to be really dark around the bottom. Let's go all the way up with that. I might just grab a darker color. I didn't even bring any darker browns. Yeah, I guess we're stuck with that burnt orange. I got some sepia I can throw in. So I'm just going to throw some of that into here. Now, this is still wet, so it's doing a lot of the work for me, right? Mostly want my dark down here. So I don't normally paint like this, but I can. And the center is pretty dark too, right? So it looks a little crazy right now. As long as my brush isn't really wet, I can manipulate this all I want. If I have water on my brush though, so if I don't tap off really well and I come in here and do this, it's gonna blossom like that. So I wanna have less water on my brush than I have on my paper. So I'm just gonna straighten that up a little bit because I made a really big mess there. I'm gonna go just a little bit darker. I did put some masking on here. I'm gonna go a little bit darker in through this bottom edge. There's all kinds of stuff happening in here. Just gonna kind of suggest that while I'm at it. And I'm not looking at my picture, but I kind of know what it looks like. So again, I'm gonna come back with some of that Quin Burnt Orange. I'm gonna deepen up down here. And might as well put some texture in there while I'm at it. So I'm just kind of putting, this is just my underpainting. This is ugly stage. We don't care what this looks like at this point, okay? But if I want to put a little texture in there, I'm going to put a little sepia with my burnt orange because that's the only brown I have. And I'm just gonna put some dots. I'm gonna come in and negative paint this all later anyway, which is mostly what I do. I'm a negative painter. I negative paint everything. But I'm liking the way this is working, because it's giving me just enough texture and color, but even when I'm tapping up in here where it's more yellow, I'm kind of avoiding my yellow a little bit, but it's already starting. This gotta come up a little higher. It's already starting to get that feeling of a seedy center, whatever that's called. I don't know what it's called. So again, I'm gonna go just a hair darker in through here because I can, put some more dots, and then I'm gonna let this dry. So for now, that's all I wanna do. But there is this kind of pulled up edge on this. I'm just putting a few little dots right over my yellows, and I'm gonna let this go. I'm also gonna, right after I do this, I'm gonna do a quick little underpainting on my stem up here, because I want that to dry before I can do my pumpkin. And I've got masking on these petals, so I can do my pumpkin and not get it on the flower. Okay, so I mask just these edges just up to here. So just for fun now, I'm gonna put a little color on this stem, and yeah, let's go aqua. So, stems are brown, right? Trees are brown. No, not in my world. So trees are not brown, the sky is not blue necessarily. I like to, when I'm doing something, I like to come in and give it some color and some life. Sometimes their colors aren't even necessarily in the picture. I think I need to open my other iPad so I can actually see it, because I don't know what I'm doing over here. So I'm gonna turn this one for you. Well, not really for everybody, is it? Okay, you guys can walk around so you can see closer. And that's not even on yet. So while that's still wet, I'm gonna take a little bit of some orangey stuff. I'm gonna throw some of this in here. I got some whites in here. I got a little bit of masking, but I still like to avoid my whites. So I'm just putting some color. Not really concerned about what color yet at this point. I just know there's some dark areas and through here. This is gonna be much darker than through there. So each time I do it, I'm just putting some texture. Right? It looks a little kooky right now.
And do you typically work this fast, or are you working faster for our benefit?
A little bit of both. I'm working fast on this mostly because I don't want this to dry before I kind of come in here and play with these colors. I probably want to put a little bit of bright yellow in there. So while I'm at it, while this is still wet, they're gonna make friends. They're gonna do fun things. So once this dries, I don't really have an opportunity, because again, this is my underpainting. I'm gonna come in here and do some detail later, but these colors are still gonna kind of glow through. One of the other things I like is, because I have this gray-blue deck here in my backyard, I kind of want my painting to be cohesive color-wise, right? So this is gonna kind of start to create that cohesiveness. I do want a little bit of an orange tone in there, so I'm just gonna grab maybe a little bit of that burnt orange again. This is quite burnt orange. So I'm gonna bring just a hair of orange into here too, because it is part of my pumpkin, and that looks kind of pretty. So no, I don't normally paint this fast, but I can do it for fun. So, and I really want this back area in through here. It's really in the dark over there, so I'm just gonna suggest that right now. I'm just using a little bit of sepia with my burnt orange. Just suggest something dark here. Maybe some of these cracks are a little dark behind here. Definitely it's gonna go darker. So it's just starting to get that feeling of I'm turning over and I'm doing something. Okay? So again, it's an underpainting for what's gonna come. Okay? Again, my pumpkin's an underpainting still too. Now, this leaf is still a complete underpainting. I just threw some color on it. That's what I call mapping, okay? I know now where that leaf is gonna be, and I just did a little extra I didn't use masking fluid on this green leaf at all.
You didn't?
None.
Hmm.
Okay? I negative paint a lot. So this is just negative painted.
Is that starting with the darks and then moving to the lights, or what's negative? I'm sure.
I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
How's that? I'm gonna do a little bit of veining on this one just for the fun of it. I'm gonna grab some, not sure which green I used. My two favorite dark greens are Deep Sap and Jadeite. If you don't have Jadeite, you need Jadeite. Jadeite is a wonderful, beautiful green. It is so pretty. It's very, very rich. Okay? It's a beautiful color.
What is that name again?
That's Jadeite from Daniel Smith, and this is the Deep Sap.
Oh,
They're
wow.
similar,
Mhm.
but this is a little bluer.
Yeah.
So I might use this one because I used this one on the other green leaf. Okay, normally, so far, by the way, I've used about 6 colors on this entire painting. I was gonna make a little chart and show you which ones, but I forgot. So, but what I'm gonna do is this one, I'm gonna start with my Jadeite, and hope you can see this. I'm just gonna decide, okay, I want this vein to kind of stand forward from the rest. I'm just gonna put a little bit of dark right here. And immediately I'm gonna wash my brush and kind of drag that away. Okay? Which is also making a shadow underneath that little vein. Put a little bit of color in there. Now I'm just gonna make a little puddle of Jadeite right here. You notice nothing's really been mixed yet? Okay, I haven't really mixed on my palette, except when I was trying to have a color that I didn't have with me. But just by doing this, I can even make a split here if I want. It looks a little harsh right now. Let me just take a little bit of yellow as a glaze, pull that down, pull this down. And as I'm doing this, it's starting to create little veins. Okay, that's right here. It's starting to create little veins now. Okay, there's probably 3 or 4 layers on this one. I don't usually go too far too quickly because you can't really take it away. You can kind of go both ways, but I like to start a little on the light side and then add color as I go. Because if you notice, I'm not looking at the picture here. I'm just kind of making this leaf up, which is fine because no one sees the photo but me. Okay, and if I show it to them, dummy me. No. So anyway, here again, I have another little split here, and this is an underside of a vein. Pure color, right? Looks really dark. Wash my brush. I'm going to pick up just a thin little bit of yellow wash on my brush, and I'm just going to drag that away with that, and look how pretty and bright that just got. And I can manipulate this because my paper is dry. And now I've got that nice little variation right there, right?
It really pops.
And I didn't do anything hard. This is just really, really simple techniques that I use every day. And people think they're hard, but they're really not hard. They're just maybe something you haven't seen before. So again, this side I'm gonna do a little bit here. This vein goes up the middle. Let's make that a little bit of a hard green. I'm gonna wash that away, a little bit of my yellow wash again. Just drag it away. But again,
And there's no masking on those veins.
nope.
Well, how did you paint it around them?
Yep, I'm just going beside them. A little dark right here, I'm gonna get a little darker right here. Yeah, I'm just making them up. I'm making up where they are.
I mean, in the original wash, you just left them.
Yep, just painting around stuff. So this one's going this way, maybe there's another vein over here. Need some more pure paint. I'm just using my palette just to get the right consistency of the paint that I want. I'm adding just enough water so it moves. I'm gonna put a little on this side. I'm gonna put a vein here. Oh, it's still wet over there. Here, all you have to do is avoid the other side, right? So I'm gonna just map it first. Here's my mapping phase. Here's another vein here. This needs to be a little sharper. Again, wash away. Grab some very thin down yellow. Yeah, it's pretty dark over there, that's okay. So again, it doesn't have to look exactly like the picture. You notice I haven't even looked at the picture, but it's turning into a leaf, okay? It's just turning into it. And the more I play with this and the more layers I do, the more intense my colors are gonna be and the better I'm probably gonna like it. But I can always go back and add more, and I can always go back and take a little bit away. You can lift too. I do a little bit of both usually. Back here, there's a big shadow on this one, which I haven't done yet. I'm gonna do that for you too, just to show you. I don't wanna put a shadow until I put the leaf underneath the shadow, right? So when I shade this, the shadow comes over this leaf like this. It's a shape. Kind of goes up, up, and up again. Like, I don't know, it's a little bit of a shapey shape. If I take right now, let me use the other green because that's what I used on it. And I just go right over this leaf just as it is. And I make that little shape. And I make that up here. And I just say, okay, that's how I want it. And boom, now my leaf is in the same shadow that my flower is casting. But everything underneath is still there because it's transparent. So I don't want to do the shadow in another color. I don't want to change it exactly. I just wanted to make it a little darker. And actually, you know, that looks a little crazy, but it won't. Okay? This shadow actually isn't dark enough yet under my pumpkin. But I want to finish the pumpkin before I decide how dark the shadow needs to be. And then maybe a little more orange in my shadow. Because if you notice, this shadow is purpley blue, aqua, and orange. All done wet into wet. Okay? So the show that I just won at the Rhode Island Watercolor Society, it's be online this week. It was all about light and shadow. And I had a building, again, from Italy. Where were we?
Naples.
We were in the Naples Museum of Fine Art. Instead of looking at the art, I'm taking pictures out the window of old buildings, which is what I painted. That's my sister, by the way. She's from Upton. I'm Swansea. My parents used to live right here at Juniper Hills. So I know this area really well. And Susan's a master quilter, if anybody's interested. She has a wonderful business. And her friend Penny, who works for there. So again, oh, my sunflower. Interesting thing about my sunflower was, so far I've only used one color. Just one on the petals. Okay? Even the darker stuff in the pale yellow, that's just Quinn Gold. Okay? So why mix colors when you don't have to and make everything dirty? Okay, so rather than mix, I'm gonna, while that's drying for a minute, I'm gonna pop over there. Here's my Quinn Gold. Quinn Gold looks brown, right? It is the most interesting color. Glad I brought this pad. It'll go from this really dark gold color. It'll even go a little darker than that wasn't quite pure. It's pretty darn dark. When I dilute this, I'm going to start over here, wetting my paper. As I come back toward it, I'm going to drag it outward. And I'm going from the palest yellow to a pretty dark golden, almost brown tone, right? So, see how the flower was created? So instead of trying to keep all my petals, if I want to keep them all uniform, I'm just going to use one color initially. Sometimes I use two, just depends on what I'm doing. But for simplicity, I decided just to use that one because I love this color. The other thing I like about these little containers is I do this. If I'm going to do that entire flower, why would I want to keep doing that? Right? I want my one little thing, either a little dish or in one of these. And I want to make one more petal. So I'm going to take a little bit of water. That tap off, so I got way too much water because I'm walking and talking. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put some color on this petal. But I got to remember, this petal has all these little bumpy, lumpy striation things happening. Got to go behind this petal. So I'm going to put those in there first. Right? These little lines. Right? All I get is a bunch of little lines. Looks terrible. If I wash my brush. By the way, to wash your brush, you've got to get to the bottom of your container. If you do this, does nothing. That ferrule is holding all kinds of paint in there. So I'm going to tap off. I know it's clean. I'm just going to drag next to some of these, beside some of these. Drag the yellow up near the top where I want it to be nice and light. And in 2 seconds, if I go a little darker, just beside this one, it's going to push this flower, this petal back, and the one beside it forward. So in 2 seconds, I just did this petal and it pushed it behind that one because I went a little darker, right? So it was a 2-second job. When this is dry, I probably will go back because some of these other petals aren't really where I want them yet. I can go back and add more, or I may decide that in some of these really dark areas, it looks a little redder, it looks a little richer. And if I went back, say to that, what is this one? Red iron oxide, love this color. Anybody use red iron oxide?
Red iron?
Red iron oxide. It is a fun color. It's very rich, again.
Oh my goodness.
It's beautiful. And when you water it down, again, you can get this nice, bricky, rich, gorgeous color. Okay, so I have, all right, I shouldn't admit it. I think I have, 85 colors. Of that, I probably use under 20 every day. Not every day. In one painting, I probably only use 7 or 8. But my go-to colors are always those colors. And there's specific ones that I just love. I love the way they work. I splattered all over that somehow. Did you see that mess? Interesting. So, I don't care about that. Hey, look at how light my center on my flower got.
Yeah.
See when it dried? I lost like 40% of the value when it dried. So that's gonna have to be done in layers, like everything else. So again, I'm gonna decide if I like my red iron oxide and I want that to be in some of my darker areas, still gonna go back to the original color that I used in the petal, right? I'm gonna take a little bit of that, mix it with my red iron oxide, because I want it all to be from one source, right? So I kind of want to keep that color in there. And then when I go in and I just darken up some of these darks with that mixture, and just between those flowers, maybe right along this edge, I can come in here now and kind of play with this, maybe darken some of these little striations. It'll just make it pop. So, I don't know if you can see that, right in here. A little bit in here. I want this one to go behind that one. I just put a little edge on it, and it's an ugly little line, but that's okay, because when I wash it away, as long as I only touch the bottom of it, that line stayed behind. Made this petal come forward, right?
You're working on dry, right? Were you doing that now?
I am. I'm not a big wet into wet painter unless I'm doing this as an underpainting. And then I get drier as I go. But, I mean, I don't care how dark my color is when I put it on. Again, you notice this is the only color I've mixed so far. Only because I want to keep that gold in it. I mixed it way too dark. I don't care if it's way too dark, again, because when I put water beside it, it's going to drag outward. It's going to get lighter. I'm putting just a few little hits of it in here for you. And it's a mess. Again, wash your brush, come back. And when I drag that away, it's only going to leave a hint of it. So now this petal's way forward. These petals are going to be bright yellow. It's still going to be this color. I'm just going to use very little of it because they're coming up and into the light, which is one of the reasons I left them, besides the fact that it's masked off and it's a lot easier to do that way. So I guess probably should do something on my pumpkin. Pumpkin, I'm going to change brushes though. Need a big one. There are days when I start and finish a painting with this brush. Okay? It's a size 12. It has such a nice point on these silver brushes. I do eyelashes with them. So when I'm doing a portrait, I'll start and finish just with this brush in my hand, including hair, strands, lashes, anything. Because it has a beautiful point. By the way, this brush is about 8 years old. And I paint every day. There's days I painted 10 hours a day. And I still got this nice, beautiful point on the end.
What was the name of it?
It's a silver black velvet.
Silver black.
Silver black velvet.
Can you get those things in the Amazon?
Mm-hmm. Comes in a set of 3 too, and I think it's packaged for silk painting in the set. So, yeah, and it's really warm here. I'm gonna take the jacket off. Oh, I'm dying.
I can turn the heat down.
So,
If you're working in a limited palette, do you still mix on the paper too? It's not
yeah, everything's been mixed
that
on
hard?
paper.
Even with like a smaller palette where you're having like maybe 10 colors instead of 20?
I think I've used 6 or 7 on here so far.
Okay.
Yeah,
Layers of colors.
colors. I got a big splotch on this one of green somehow, so I'm just gonna see if I can wash that off a little bit. Nah, we won't worry about it. So now I want to deepen my pumpkin. Did this ever turn on? I can't see behind me, so I gotta get this going.
Are all your paints transparent?
Mostly, yes. Yeah, I mostly use transparent colors. I don't use white, I don't use black. I do own like, what's that color? Give me the name of it. What's that chalky white color?
Chalky white.
Titanium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I own it.
What is it?
What's it called?
Buff titanium. I think I've used it a few times, like doing sand on a beach, and then flicked other colors into it to give it some texture, but I couldn't enter it in a transparent show. So I pretty much avoid those colors unless it's just something a commission or something I'm doing for me. So I try and stick with the rules because, you know, sometimes I think, well, I'm just gonna do some crazy little fun painting and it turns out to be one of my better ones, and I wanna enter it and now I can't. So I try and just stick with those kind of things. And you know, I guess there's no rules in watercolor, at least for me, because I made up my own rules. I don't know what's right and what's wrong. I don't know color theory, okay? I've never studied color theory. I actually tried to. I went online, I paid like $500 for a color theory course that was like 3 months, 3 nights a week. I got through most of the first one with toothpicks in my eyes, and I turned it off and said, that was really confusing, and if art has to become a science, then I don't want any part of it, okay? And someone said, well, you must know color theory because you do it. I do it instinctually because I've done it so much maybe, but I don't have any idea. So people ask me to teach a class in color theory, I just go, no. Color, I can tell you about color, but I can't tell you why. I can tell you what works. So again, I have a picture now, so that's gonna be helpful. Because I was just winging it, and it's gonna be nothing like this picture when I'm done. So again, I'm gonna come, where am I gonna go? I'm gonna put something on my pumpkin. I need some color desperately, come on. So this is the beauty of this, I need my pumpkin, right? I can zoom in, I can zoom out again. And I can get just what I wanna see in my vision.
And the older you get, the more handy that comes.
Yes, yes. And honestly, I'm painting in contacts, which is not really great for me because I don't see as well with contacts. But I didn't feel like wearing glasses, so I'm stuck with them today. So I'm gonna clean up my palette because I've got all this junk in here from other things. And I don't wanna contaminate my pumpkin with a leaf, you know? So I'm just gonna wipe that out real quick. I already had damp paper towels in front of my water bucket. So I'm gonna use those. And then grab some more, put in front of my water bucket. So that's why I keep a pile. I've actually cut an entire roll of Viva before. I had a stack. But it's good, because I don't want to have to stop and go cut paper towels. So if they're in my studio, I can stick them in a drawer, they're just there, because it takes me forever. Well, I take like 6 half sheets, layer them on top of each other, cut them in 3, and then pile them up. And I take 6 more and do it again. So usually I'm lazy and I just do 6. So now I want to add some color. I know I used Pyrrole, everyone says it different, red. And I think I used the same gold. I think that's the only 2 colors that are on there. I might have put a little bit, I think this is Hansa Yellow Light, yep. Might use a little bit of Hansa Yellow Light in this one. But, so I kind of want to stick in that family. I can mix it up, I can change it up. But again, this is glaze number 2. So I'm going to take a little bit of my Pyrrole, which is really dark, and I'm going to start by adding some of that in the bottom, where I know my pumpkin is its darkest. And I'm just going to throw it on there. And you notice everything, whoops, I got it right on my shadow. No biggie, it's going to need more in the shadow anyway. I'm just going to throw some on here, and I'm going to start to think about how this darker stuff shows up on my pumpkin, right? Now, if I take a little bit of something yellow, maybe that gold back again, and if I just wet the top of that, so these aren't hard lines, right? No science to that, right? I mean, it can't be any easier. It's just, I did get it on my background, which I'm not happy about, so let me get it off. So I just made the bottom of my pumpkin dark.
Wow.
Right? In 2 seconds. I mean, it's not, it doesn't have to be complicated. Because I have an underpainting, I kind of already know where I'm going to go with this. I know these got to go a little darker into here. Because this is wet, see how nice that is running into the next color. In here, this is pretty dark, maybe about halfway up. I'm just using the red for now. I'm going to make those a different color later. I'm probably going to come in with that burnt orange. But for now, I'm still mapping. But see how my pumpkin's starting to get some shape, right? Super simple. And detail comes later. This is just the fun stuff. This is just throwing some color in. This is going to go much darker in between these. And I can throw in just a crazy little line like that, come back, soften one side. Boom, boom, boom. Now it doesn't look so crazy, right? So again, this is kind of a hard line here. Touch it, right? These little things that are happening, actually are giving my pumpkin all kinds of nice texture. So it's just playing with color. And this does have a lot of nice texture in through here, and it does have some light areas. So I don't want to squash all that, which is why I'm starting from my lightest value and working forward. When this dries, you know what's going to happen. I'm going to lose half my value again, right? So my next coat, I can be a little neater. I can kind of create those little hills and valleys on my next layer, okay? I did bring a blow dryer so we can go a little further on this. I'm going to keep going though, because I'm nowhere near where I need to be. I think I'm even going to put a little bit of this red iron oxide into that orange, because it's kind of brown down in through here. It's a little darker. And I'm even going to use a little bit of green. This side of this one is quite dark, right here. Just this side, and it's all the way up. Might even, just for the fun of it, throw a little bit of green into that. It doesn't even mix anything yet. Okay, wash my brush, tap it off. I'm going to come in here and tickle the side. So it's going from dark to light, right?
Yeah.
So I tickled it from out here though. I just come in and touch this one side. I'm gonna go past this, or if this side gets wet, it's gonna bleed both ways. So I'm just bleeding one side, okay? Now that looks ridiculous because it's right in the middle of the pumpkin, but a little bit more. I'll put some over here. This one has some in through here. And you notice these aren't straight lines either. This isn't a store-made pumpkin. This is actually doing a pumpkin patch. So it's not perfect. I'm going to actually put some more stuff happening in here because I want to give it texture at the same time. Right? So I gave it texture, but that's too much texture. How do you fix too much texture? Touch it with water. It's going to then go its own way and do its own thing. Now I get a bumpy pumpkin right in through here. Okay? So again, I'm creating the shape and texture, but again, this is going to be underneath my next coat. So if it's a little too dramatic, or if it's not quite right, I don't care. It's all going to be good in the end. So I'm going to take a little bit more of the browner. What was I using? This one and this one. Is that what I was doing? Hey, let's put those together. So I am mixing these two. Only because I don't have the color I need, so I have to kind of.
Which two are you mixing?
I'm just mixing the pearl orange with a little bit of the red iron oxide. So I'm just going to make some of these a little darker. I know my bottom of my pumpkin needs to go way darker in through here. Let's make it darker while we're at it. Right? Again, looks crazy. Water. Make it go away. I'm going to leave that little light spot. I'm adding some texture. Pumpkin's getting better. Okay? It's growing.
Nice.
So, and again, this is nowhere near dark enough, but this red is brightening this pumpkin up because it was looking really dull and really flat. So if I take an orange, which I could, it's just orange. Where the red and the yellow mix together, I get varieties of orange. right? So I don't normally use this color. I actually stole a drop of this from Bev. I didn't own orange. I did. So she let me. Yes. Okay. So again, I'm going to come back on this side. This still needs to go darker on the bottom over here. I'm just using straight up red again. I'm going to come down along this bottom edge, going right over everything else I've already done. You know, so I can go right up to those leaves because those are masked, right? That looks terrible, I know. Hands of yellow light. Little tiny bit. I just want a very thin wash. This is almost water. If you could show you that. This is almost water. I'm just tinting my brush, okay? And when I come back and do that, now I'm going from orange to yellow. Right? I need this glow. The glow's gonna come all the way around, right? So again, I'm gonna come back. I'm just gonna grab a hint of that tinted water again. Kind of want that to go all the way around. It's kind of like an arc, right? It's coming around, making the light come around my pumpkin. I have some masking on here. So these whites are there. So I don't have to worry about them, but I still want to form it. It's still a round object. So again, it's kind of working for me. Maybe I need a little bit more yellow because then I'm going to turn it back into orange again as I come up a little higher. So I'm just going to tint my brush with a little bit more yellow into here. And then I want it to go darker where it comes out and over the pumpkin. Grab a little bit of my red, orange. I'm going to be a little careful around my stem. So I'm just going to kind of draw that in, being a little more careful than normal. Right? It's there. Right? Now I'm going to pull that down and around toward my yellow. So I'm pulling it right down along those little bits and it's starting to mix and blend, right? So, and again, this is still an underpainting. So I can give it some texture. I can move that around a little bit where I don't like it. Back here, it's going to go a little darker around this part of the stem. Maybe it pulls out and around. Over here, it goes into bright again. So again, I'm going to pull a little bit of the darker stuff, pick up some of my yellow wash, pull it down and around, and I just brightened up that side of the pumpkin. Okay. Again, not mixing. It's mixing here so all this fun stuff can learn and make friends and be happy. Okay? If I force that and if I try and blend, if I try and mix all these colors, they're not going to do their own thing. Now, when it comes to detail, I'm a lot slower and a lot more careful than I am on something like this. And I will be when it comes to my later layers on this. Again, though, I do think I need to enhance some of these little lines. So I'm going to go back to that mixture that I used, which is my red iron oxide. And what was it? I forgot. Orange?
The
red. Okay. So I'm just going to get a little bit of some darker stuff. And because this is wet, it's not going to stay in a nice straight line anyway. Let's put some in there. Right? Looks terrible. Terrible. I ruined it. Right? Till I wet my brush. And then it fixes itself. So now I'm just going to come in way over the edge here. I shouldn't have done that. Let me fix that one. But I was just being silly and throwing color. Now I'm going to tickle one side of this. This is what I call tickling. I made that up. It's not a scientific term. Nobody else uses it but me and my students now. So tickling, to me, is a way of softening in a very careful, soft way. So all those terrible, terrible straight lines I just made are kind of gone, right? And again, that's still part of my underpainting, but I like that. It needs more of that. So in here, this is going to go way darker. Again, those two colors. Whoops, wrong one. This one and this one. Much darker. I'm going to darken here. I'm going to darken here. I want to darken the whole bottom, but for that matter. make this way darker. This side of this. I wanna leave that light spot. Okay, I look like I'm losing my mind. And I probably have, but these two colors again. So, you know, it's funny. I don't paint this this quickly when I'm at home, but I will say, and my students will tell you, some of my best paintings, my best work are demos. Because I don't sit and think and overthink things. I allow things to happen a little more organically, and usually you end up with a better result. So again, I'm coming in darker all into this bottom, right? I'm gonna start enhancing these lines again. Looks terrible. So, a little bit of water, maybe a little bit of my yellow, soupy wash. It's just tinted yellow, it's not paint. It's dirty water, okay? I'm gonna come in now. I'm gonna soften here, 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 here. Pull this up, pull this up. Oh, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm gonna put some texture in here while I can, because it's just damp. It's gonna kind of stay where I put it. So as long as my brush is not wet, is not drippy wet, my little spots are gonna pretty much stay where I put them. Boy, that looks a lot better now. Right? So, I'm gonna mess this up because there's spots I hate. I can fix them. Yeah, that's a little better. So if you notice, my pumpkin has gone, and I'll show you where it was when we started. My pumpkin has gone from a very pale underwash to actually having a little bit of substance now. Okay, and again, this is a underpainting still. You know, it's gonna go a little darker into here. There's a shadow on this too, but I'll put that in later. Kind of like I did on that leaf over here. Darken some of these, right? Just ugly lines. And see how easy this is, by the way? Really though. I mean, people think it has to be complicated. You have to learn color theory. You have to learn how to mix colors. I don't have to mix colors. My paper mixes colors. I just tell it where to go. So I do that with a lot of people. Oh. Paintings. Now I think this needs to go way lighter on this side, so I'm gonna lift a little up. And I can. If I take a drier brush, I can lift some more color out of that. I wanna lift some out of here too. Look, lifted right out.
So what kind of paper is that?
This is Arches. I usually use Arches or Fabriano. I'm not sure which one I like better. I usually end up going back to my Arches. But that's just personal preference. I know people who use completely different papers than me and love them just as much as I love mine. So it's whatever works for you. So that's really, I mean, I'm almost ready to just move on for a while. I gotta let this dry before I do anything else, because if I do anything else, it's just gonna all mix in anyway, and I might lose some of this freshness because I'm liking this yellow spot. This yellow area is kind of making me happy. So while that's drying, you know, I do the stem because it looks like so much fun, but I stick my hand in the wet pumpkin. I'm just gonna do a little bit more. How am I doing for time, kids?
7:45.
What time we done here?
I would stay and watch till 10.
Okay, 10 it is. Okay, so again, I'm gonna do something on this leaf while that's drying. I can't put my hand in that. Really don't wanna work here. Can't take these off yet because my pumpkin's not done, okay? So this has to wait. So everything has to be in stages. Can't work on this, that's wet. But I can come in here and do a little bit more of this fun stuff. So again, you know, so I'm deciding where my little stems are, because I'm not looking at the picture, right? I'm just making them where I think they need to be. Little of that wet yellow wash and drag it away. I'm not going into that corner, I'm dragging it out here. I kind of like the yellow on this one, so I'm continuing with it. Let's do something there. That's gonna get dark. So behind, I gotta just take the jadeite out because I keep having to look and see which one's which. Besides, since I'm only really using one color, why not hold it, right? Why keep going back and forth? I just tripped over there. This is pretty dark. This goes, well, it has a shadow. But, so I'm not gonna go that dark right off the bat, but this, I want this to be darker into here. I'm just gonna make, if I make this dark, this stem now comes forward. Before it was the same value. So another good trick is if you're working on a painting and you're not sure about your values, yeah, don't paint your stem dark green. If you're not sure about your values, if you have an iPad or two, you can take a picture and turn it into black and white, and then you can really see your values. And I do that a lot because after a while, I call it going paint blind. You can't see your own painting anymore. I also have a very good friend who lives in California. He's a very accomplished artist. And when I'm not sure about something or if I'm getting close to being done, I'm not sure if I like it yet, I send it to her. She sends hers to me. So it's kind of like having a painting buddy because it's that second set of eyes. Because I've looked at something for, 10 days now. I can't see it anymore. I'm not even sure.
Eyes, too. Professional eyes, because I'll ask my boyfriend or fiance or whatever, just what does
Yeah.
this look like? And he's like, oh, it looks great. And I'm like, that's not good enough.
Yeah, I ask my husband that all the time. I usually get, thanks, babe. So yeah, grunts don't help me at all. So grunting is not a good answer. So again, I'm creating a little bit more in here. I'm not really liking what's happening here, so I'm gonna just change this. I want this to go this way. I don't like that little vein I had going on. Make another one here though. So again, see the veins popping up that weren't there? The only thing you have to make sure of is it's that, forget what it's called. It's something about that rabbit thing. You have something that goes behind a tree. Whatever is here has to be here. I see people that are doing a painting with a flower and then they do their background and it's different here than it is on this side of the stem. It doesn't make sense. So whatever's on one side kind of has to be on the other. Except in the case of these little veins here because it's casting a darker shadow underneath. Okay? If I want to break this up and do a little bit more color contrast, I probably could. I could just take a little bit of a different yellow or orangey something and pop it in here right now. Let's put some here though. We can't just have it in one place. Looks terrible, I know. But wet, damp brush. I took all the water off, you notice. I don't want it to splush. Now if I move that, boom. Now it looks pretty darn good. And it's a little different than the green one beside it. Is it exactly the same color? Yep. But not in my painting because this is my reference photo. No one sees it but me. And I like the way that balances with my orange above it. So you don't have to be a slave to your photograph. Most of my paintings are not. I change things a lot. I change colors on people's clothing. I change all kinds of good stuff. And I don't know, just different things. This one, for instance, this is my nephew, Nicholas. He's the crazy hair dude over here, right? His jacket wasn't checks, it was more that houndstooth, crazy kind of, all these little strokes. And I said, I don't want to do that. Let's just make it a check, because it'll be a lot easier. It took me 20 minutes to paint that, right? The other way would have taken me a month of Sundays.
That would have taken me a month of Sunday.
But if you're gonna do a fabric like this, you can't shade it later. Because all that Payne's blue-gray, when I go to put a wash, is gonna run.
Right.
So if you shade your fabric first and then put your pattern on top, it's all shaded for you, right? So that's a great, great tip if you're doing fabric. Put your shadows in. I taught a class with Bev at the Providence Art Club, and we did fabric with stripes. It came out amazingly well. I had one woman in the class, first time painting, was it?
First time painting. She was opening her tubes
Yes.
in class.
Her fabric came out beautiful because it's just a simple little tip that people normally don't think about doing. Okay, but it will save your sanity. Because if I did all that work and then pulled it down, I did do it on purpose in a few little places later, right? But again, this is just Payne's blue-gray. There's no other color, on that. So again, keep it simple, The lace, it's not perfect. I negative painted that. It was just white. I didn't mask it, I just did little tiny shapes.
Oh,
And
wow.
pretended they were roses. That was not the fabric that was actually on that curtain. This was just easy for me because I know how to negative paint a rose pretty well. So I just fake it.
Look at the scarf. The woman's a scarf.
Yep.
Oh, my.
Shading first. Yep.
Shade of first.
Shading first. So again, it's, making things simple. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard. Everyone thinks watercolor is the hardest medium. Yeah, it is, unless you know the magic tricks, okay? And I just call this my magic tricks. I tell my students it all the time. Oh, that's easy, there's just a magic trick you don't know yet. Show them once and then they get it. I also, and if you have a teacher, if you go into somebody and you're taking classes, I have my students all bring a watercolor journal with them. Every time they say, how do I negative paint a tree? And I do a demo for them, I demo it in their book. They can put notes, they can write the date, they can put color choices, they can write anything they want in that. And the other ladies in the class take a picture and they save it into a file. But the next time they come, I have one group of ladies, they've been coming from Connecticut, like an hour and 20 minutes for 7 years every Thursday.
Oh my God.
One has like 5 books full, both sides. And they're all dated. And she recently sent me a picture she was working on, and she said, I was doing a stone wall, and I remembered you demoed that like 5 years ago. And I went back in my original books, and I found it, and look what I did. And I was like, wow, that really worked. So, it's nice to have a reference. And, my demo wasn't just wasted, it went in one ear and out the other, because she's got it forever. And the other women have it saved in their file, in their folder forever. So it's good to have some backup going on there. All right, so I'm gonna just do a little bit, it's not dry enough.
Excuse me.
You're
What
dry,
color
Lucy.
did you use for your floor? For the wood?
This is cobalt teal. Yep,
Wow.
cobalt teal with a little bit of brown mixed in. And if you notice on the side of the little cracky, peely wood things, I edged it. Just where it would be in shadow with a little bit of dark. So if I was to enhance that, say I took some, I don't know, I'll get some of this sepia, and maybe I'll just put something else in it because that's a little dirty looking. If I didn't want to enhance the shadow underneath this crack, if I just put a little tiny line of dark, right? Yep. Not gonna stay there. I'm gonna tickle just the bottom. I'm not gonna touch the top. One thing about these brushes, they do not spring back. If I just tickle the bottom from the underside and drag it, I could even push it up a little tighter. And it just enhanced that healing feeling, just a little bit more. That's not really blended properly, but I couldn't see it from upside down, so let me just fix it real quick. And I'm gonna push it right, I'm gonna push it right back up. Now what I mean by push it right back up, I'm gonna push it up tight. If I make a line, I want a dark line. I need to use a pretty color. So I wanna make a line, I just want a skinny little line like that. And I go like that and I make a big ugly one, right? But I want a skinny line that's uptight. It's just that little crease underneath the teacup. I can push that color up tightly by going from the bottom up, right? Okay, that's really wet, that's not working. If I do it again, clean water, and I'm coming up, I'm pushing that up. Now I'm gonna have a clean dry brush. I'm gonna start down here again, and I'm pushing it back up. I gotta do it some more. It didn't get tight yet. It's too much water on here. So again, push, and pretty soon, that big fat line is gone, right? I can do it again. I can do it as many times as I want until almost all of this is gone, and all that's left is a skinny line. So if I'm doing a shadow under something, that's a really good technique to know. Because I can end up, this was a big, thick area, and I pushed it. By the same token, if I want to come down, by the way, I can just go this way. I brought it right back down again. And if I don't like it, I can push it right back up again. right?
It keeps a very nice, it's a very nice, clean edge.
Clean edge, exactly. And that's why, you know, sometimes I need clean edges, sometimes I don't. I need clean edges on these, I don't necessarily need clean edge on that. But, you know, it needs a lot more work, but it's not something that has hard edges. Now, this is gonna have hard edges. It's gonna have lots of them. Probably could play with that a little bit right now.
Hair dryer's right here.
Yeah. Too lazy. Sepia. I'm grabbing something dark. Can't really see this, but in here, behind this little bump, is some really dark stuff. I don't want it to be a straight line though, so putting little dots in there. And in here is really dark up against that. And then it's got some dark stuff coming this way too. Right? And in here, it's just all dark. Let's just go dark in there. Right? Just a bunch of little lines right now. Same thing. Water, tap off. I'm gonna come in here. I want this to all be dark, but I don't want it to be the same level of dark. So let's just tickle it in, leave some little dots. And it's starting to look like that little bit is going behind, okay? I'm just gonna stick with that color for a few minutes. Probably shouldn't use this one, but so I'm stuck with now. Put some of this here, goes around in between these two, comes out and around. In here, goes darker again, that way. It's gonna go even darker. I'm not liking that brown. Let's put some blue in it. Brown and blue make the best grays, by the way. I don't use gray, I use blue and brown mixed together. My brush has way too much water on it, and I can fix that. I don't want this to be soupy, but I don't want to waste all the color I just put in it. If I do this, I'm sucking all the water out of the belly. But my paint's still on the end, and now it's not going to splush anymore. So I suck the belly out a lot, because I usually only put paint on the tip of my brush anyway. You may have noticed I'm not putting paint throughout my entire brush. I only want it on the tip because I want to be able to wash it off real quick so I can come back with clean water to move stuff. So I don't want to get bogged down with too much pigment. I like this better with the blue in it. I'm going to put a little bit more blue, and this is just some beautiful phthalo, right? It's really beautiful. Phthalo's gorgeous. It's got a little brown in it. Let's put some more brown in it. So between my phthalo and my brown, I've got this beautiful dark that mimics black. Right, I'm going to put some in there. I'm going to put some in through here. I'm going to put some little stripey things on that. I want this to turn over, and it's got some little shape. And this has a dark area, comes down and around. Down here is much darker than above it. Doesn't go all the way to the end though. And again, I'm going to come in here in a minute and soften some of this stuff. This is dark above this bit, there, and over. You notice I'm not doing straight lines, okay? Bunch of dark spots. Just a bunch of dark. What's next? Wash my brush. Do a lot of washing my brush. And I am getting to the bottom. If you use one of these buckets, I'm a Dynasty tester rep, Dynasty Brush Company. Hey, when I drag this out, it turns blue. And one of the women there that's a regular brush tester before I came on board, she said, "Don't tell me use one of those." I was giving them a review on the watercolor brushes. And she said, "Well, you can't use one of those buckets. They've got those things on the bottom and it eats the ends of your bristles up." Right? You know, those little things on the bottom. Well, mine, usually this is this way and I wasn't paying attention. Mine has them and they come up on an angle, right? When I brush my brush at home, this is what I'm doing. I'm turning my hand and I'm dragging only towards me, right? You know, so I lay off my brush, I'm always doing this. Everything's in a toward me motion. When I'm getting paint, even out of my container, I don't dig, I lay it off. So when you lay it off, you're not breaking those beautiful bristles on the end of your brush and having to go spend 20 bucks and buy a new brush. This is 8 years old, maybe more. Okay, so I'm a firm believer of taking care of your supplies, and Dynasty brushes, okay, I'm a rep. They're not the best quality brushes in the world. They're good for beginners. They're inexpensive, but they don't last very well. So that's why when I did a demo for Dynasty for their YouTube channel, we were talking about, how to make your brushes last longer. So I was explaining, and this lady said, you can't use one of those buckets. You can if you know how to use it. So if you're gonna dig and do this, you're not gonna like it much. It's not gonna last for
I'm
long.
gonna ask you about your palette, the round
Mhm.
palette. So do you buy the tubs and put the tube of color in it? Yeah, I
Mhm.
would buy the tube.
And then I write, this is Phthalo Blue Green Shade by Daniel Smith, DS. Which
So where
one?
did you find that?
Robax is only online, Robax.
That's
It's in Florida. This is Phthalo Turquoise QOR brand. Love this turquoise. So I write what it is, because when this gets empty and I don't have that tube anymore, I need to know what was in here, right? Now, these are all stored in a clear plastic containers. I have 2 of them that stack. I can see right through it, so I can just keep all my blues and greens in one, my yellows and my reds in another. I pick out the ones I want, I drop them in here. When I'm done, I put it all away. Then I can wash it. By the way, if your palette gets too dirty, take it out, get another one underneath it. Okay? And these also come in porcelain, which I haven't bought yet, but I'm going to. So, all right, so where was I here? Oh, I was playing with that. That was fun.
So that's a Daniel Smith palette.
Nope, that's Robax.
Oh.
Robax. So now I'm going to come back with just the dark brown.
There's the name there if you want to take a picture.
Oh, does it have the name on it? Yeah. That's the cover. I also have an insert that goes in here that holds 18 more colors on the inside where this goes.
Oh my.
I didn't add that. I didn't need 18 more colors. But a lot of times I'll just take the little palette, especially when I'm using a big painting. I'm doing a painting this big. I don't want to have to reach to get to the end of this one, although it does spin. This is a turntable, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But if I just have the little one, sometimes I hold it in my hand. It's just the size of this. So if I'm doing a big painting, I can't reach over there, 'cause especially if it's going landscape way. So if I'm working over here, I need another arm. So again, I'm gonna put a little bit more dark in here, just because I can, and use it desperately, right here. There is some masking fluid on here. When I take the masking fluid off, I'm gonna have a big mess to fix, but that's what happens. It works that way. So now I get a little bit more dark. I think that looks a little more interesting. It's somewhere, it's not where it needs to be, but I'm gonna let this dry, because my next step is gonna be to glaze with a different color, and I need to allow this to dry in order to glaze over it. A little bit more interest
Gina, how do you lift the masking?
with a masking lifter, a little rubber thingy dingy.
Yeah.
This one's a little out of shape. They're usually square. I bought this in 1980. I did, college. So this is really, really old. I have new ones, but they're not as pliable as they used to be. The newer ones a lot of times come in stiff, and I don't like that. So I've ordered a few more, and I always go back to this one because I'm comfortable with it and I like it. So when I lift it off, I'll show you. I'll lift them off in a few minutes.
It's like an eraser.
Yeah, it's not. It's just a piece of rubber. It's just rubber, and it just, if I just do this, it lifts it off. Okay? Oh, look, it went right through my line. Here, we'll lift off my little boat with the mast. Okay? Took 2 seconds. If I use my finger like everybody tells you to do, oh, just rub it with your finger. That's fun. No. First of all, if you get a big painting, you're going to rub the skin off your finger. Most importantly, you've got oil on your hands, whether you know it or not. I actually wash my hands about every hour when I'm painting, just to make sure my hands are clean, because look what happens. First of all, I always have paint on my hands. Half the time I go shopping and I'm at the register, I'm like, oh, I'm gross. They must think I'm like really weird, but that happens, right? And then you go to paint over here and you get red all over that. And so, you know, keeping your hands clean is really important. If I'm just doing something over here, I can just do that and get it off with some clean water. Just dry it really well. Okay, so So that's that. Now, this is very ugly right now. It doesn't have a lot of warm, which is what it's missing, is the warm colors. The orangey, the warmer tones. But it's probably dry enough. If I take my brush and I grab something nice and warm, maybe I'll just get some of this yellow gold again. I don't think I have any spot of that anywhere. I just want to glaze over some of this. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a glaze and add some of this into it. And it's going to get really, it's going to kind of start to blend these colors together and give it some warmth. And yeah, that looks terrible because I haven't done my next coat yet. But see how now the yellows are mixing with those blues, it's making green. And it's kind of pretty now. It's got more to go. So you remember I told you trees aren't brown? That's why. Because now this is cohesive with what's going on down here. If it's just a big blob of brown, there's no real brown anywhere else in the painting, it's going to be really boring. This needs some blue. Because now I introduce blue into that. I'm going to introduce some blue into my center. Doesn't have to be there, but I feel like I see it here and here. It's almost more purple, right? But if I use my red iron oxide with my blue, it's kind of turn a little bit on that purple side, and I feel purple there, you know? But I'm weird. But I kind of like that. Because from a distance,
Yeah, right.
now that doesn't have the detail yet. That's going to be dry. Because right now it's just going to splush. So, and I splushed a lot of it on purpose with the yellow. And I'm not going to do my detail till I take off the masking. So I might even do that in a few minutes so I can show you what I mean. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to do a little bit more on that green thing because I think it looks terrible. Half done. So again, I do use my palette though when I'm getting paint. I come over here because I want to mix it into my brush. I don't want to have a blob of that green come off my brush on my paper because sometimes it'll stain it super duper dark and you can't move it, right? So I always want to make sure that I don't have a blob on the end. I'm trying to find a clean spot so I don't contaminate it with the other colors. And over here, can't see it. Over here, it's got another vein coming this way, so let's just pretend we know what we're doing. We'll go that way. We'll put a vein that way. Put it on this side. This one's got some but just up here. So you notice I'm doing the corners. See? Corners. Right? Messy, yucky corners. And I don't care how messy and yucky it is because I'm going to clean it all up when I wash it away. This one's going to go that way. I want this one to go further.
Is that required, Gina?
But
Putting your foot up in the air?
yeah, I'm not used to painting standing up. So again, big mess. Back to my yellow wash, right? I always like to pull it out with something a little different. It gives it a little more fun, a little more volume, interest. Something happening here, don't know what. Boom, boom, boom. Here, we'll leave that way. And it's kind of yellow over there, right? I don't like it. But if I take my green back and I put some green in it, did I use the wrong green maybe? Now I'm going to put some in here because I want whatever's happening on one side to be happening on the other, right? Back to my yellow. There's the yellow light. We need a little bit more pigment in this one. And again, I'm going to drag that away, making this a little brighter. I added more pigment because I want this to go a little brighter on this side. I don't know what's happening here. I should have been a little more careful, but good enough. So I'm dragging this away with color, and I brightened up the leaf at the same time. Okay, and is it just like the picture? Nope. These aren't bright enough. All I have to do is take that same yellow lemon glaze. If I want this side to be as bright, glaze it over. In fact, I can go right over these stems. It's all transparent. I just glazed over the whole thing. Right? So that's precision work. Just slop it on there and say, please work. But it will. You just have to trust the process. I want this back to be super duper bright. I'm just coming in with pure yellow. Over here, this little tip. Look how bright I just made the back.
Yeah.
Okay? In the picture, it's the same as that one. Not a picture, it's a painting. So, and that's another thing. I always have to know when to say when, because I am a detail person. I can detail something to death, and I have. And you lose that looseness, you lose that spontaneity that it's a painting. So when I'm painting, sometimes I have to say, okay, this is a painting, this is not a photograph, it's time to quit. Or you're gonna go too far, and then you get hyperrealism, which you might as well have just bought the photograph, in my world, you know? By the way, I don't like this next to this leaf anymore. It's way too bright. In order to fix that little issue, guess what? All you do is throw some of that in here. I'm dripping. Look, boom, boom, boom. They match, don't they?
Yeah.
And that's how precise I'm being.
That's not called the glazing.
Huh?
That's not called the glazing. You just like your.
Well, but that's what makes it fun. By the way, I did decide when I was painting this, and I stopped because I didn't want to go too far. I really wanted something pretty on my leaf. I wanted something a little bit different. So I took some of this beautiful phthalo turquoise, which I absolutely love, and it is very turquoise.
Yeah.
This is like the ocean in the Caribbean. It is the most beautiful color, and it actually is such a pigmented color. Almost wrong one. It's such a pigmented color that in its purest form with this one, it almost looks black. Right? So this is just straight up pigment. It could go darker. That's got a little too much water in it. When I wet that,
So pretty.
so again, this gives me an entire range with one color. That's this aqua. That's phthalo turquoise QOR brand. But I think I want to throw some of that onto a leaf, just because I can. So if I just took it right here and said, okay, here's where I want some aqua, right? Right?
Is it? Yeah. Yes.
Does it look nutty?
Yep.
Maybe.
It's beautiful.
I'm gonna blend it out. A little bit of water. So is it in the picture? No. I know, and I normally don't do this at this stage of the game, but every painting I do, somewhere in it, has a pop of pink.
Pink.
Just what I do. Yeah, this beautiful opera pink. This is my favorite color of all time. Like, I have to have this in my painting. My painting's not complete without it. So why not put it right here?
Your signature.
Wow.
I just did that,
Oh wow.
right?
What did you?
I just went bloop,
Oh, cool.
right? Way too much. All I have to do is come back with a damp brush, pull some around, put a pop of it somewhere else. Where is it? Here it is. Let's put a pop of it over here. Just on the top, right? So, does it belong there? No. But does it look pink? No, because it went over yellow. It just made a prettier orange, you know? And there will be places where I will actually leave it in its purest form. I probably need some right.
It's underneath.
Thank you. Making a mess. I probably need some in here. Just on that edge. And when I get my brush and blend that away, I'm only gonna leave it right in there. But I think it's pretty.
Yeah.
Right? It's unexpected, but I want that area to be a lot, it's gonna have a shadow over that part anyway. So why not make it pretty before I put a big ugly dull shadow over it? So again, pretty's it. Yeah, kinda like that pink there. So I'm gonna do that, guess what? You can't have pink just in one place in your painting, but I get a pretty yellow leaf right here. Let's do that in the shadow. And then wash it away. Leave that little tip. Maybe it needs some down here too. There's a little shadow, remember when I painted it, that goes right here. Right? Looks nuts. Same thing as always, water takes them away. And all it does is look orange.
Gina, is the opera pink, is it fugitive or you don't care?
I don't care. No. Is what it is.
What does that mean?
Yeah,
It
really.
lasts forever, pretty much.
It's not, yeah, it's not like fast, it'll fade over time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll be dead before it happens. I mean, the only one that's gonna get rich off of my paintings is my kids, and don't tell them that, they'll bump me off now.
They'll lock you up, make you paint for a while, and then
So, yeah, that doesn't,
doesn't bother you.
nope. You know, I mean, am I gonna be in the Louvre someday? No, probably not. You know, so my paintings may last, you know, enough time for people to enjoy them that I know and I like. In here, maybe I'll put some spots. Big mess, right? And again, almost dry brush this time, and I'm just gonna tickle some of that corner. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Maybe I need a little bit right here, because that looks a little boring. And again, tickle, and that's that. So my yellow leaf got a little bit of color. And it just feels a little happier now because it's not so boring. It didn't want to be the ugly yellow one on the bottom. It definitely needs some really rich yellow because this leaf is pretty bright.
Yeah.
But when this dries, one glaze over part of it with the Quin Gold, it's gonna go pow, right? But I can't do it till it's dry. So I think I'm gonna blow dry for 1 second. Thank you. Not work? Push this blue button in. Thank you. I'm gonna cut this stem until I do that, but I'm gonna take off the masking fluid. Also, do you know some masking fluids, when you blow dry them, will glue to the paper? When you go to peel it off, the paper rips. One of the things I like about Grumbacher this kit, it can take a little bit of heat. Notice I'm not on it. I'm back here, but it will take heat. I'm pulling it out of the wall. That's why I brought her. She's my assistant for something. She's my assistant today.
Did you say Grumbacher?
Grumbacher Miskit. M-I-S-K-I-T. Buy it on Amazon. Can you tell I don't leave my house much? Good enough.
You get better deals on Amazon than you do at Jerry's?
About the same. Yeah, and if it's a few cents more, who cares? By the way, that boring yellow leaf of mine that I didn't like, I'm gonna take a different yellow. I'm just gonna use a deeper yellow. Oops, did I splash you? This is New Gamboge.
Oh, I love it.
New Gamboge is beautiful. If I just glaze over that, look what happens.
Wow.
Right? Put some here and put some here. Again, come back, water, move. Now my yellow leaf is bright and colorful. I didn't put it everywhere though. I want some light spots. This leaf is kind of dry and crotchety. Need some on the very top too. Need a little bit more. Just on this little edge because this is in a little, not all the way down. Just a little drop up here will make me happy. Around that little curl. Maybe this drop right in here. And boom. So I'm varying. I didn't just put the same level of yellow, just like when I do a portrait. By the way, if anybody does portraits, I love portraits. I do a lot of them. I do a lot of commissions. When I do a portrait, I paint the entire face yellow. When that is 100% dry, my next layer is red or pink, depending on the skin tone. And when that's 100% dry, I come in with my blue or purple over the shadowed areas. If I take blue, yellow, and red and mix them together, I got brown,
Yeah, right.
right? I got mud. if each layer is dry and then I go back and glaze over it, I get beautiful warm peach instead of blah. So that's why I waited to the end, and I think that leaf is much prettier.
Oh, yeah.
So it's come a long way, and I will show you afterward where we started. Okay, I'm just gonna, let me take off the masking. Now, masking is a nightmare because I didn't really pay attention when I masked it. I did it really fast, and I didn't use the pen, I just used a brush. So it's probably gonna be a mess under here once I take this off, but we'll see where I have some lights. Oh no, it's not too shabby. Okay, it's only where I dotted my masking or made little lines. But now I have to go in and clean it all up. But see how that left some light
Yeah.
on the stem?
Oh.
So that's where the light hit all the little high spots, right? And I didn't do all long straight lines. I kind of tried to follow the light I was seeing. So I'm looking at my picture while I'm masking. I see people all the time and they just want to like go in and just put masking on the top of something. And it's not really how it works. You kind of have to look at the picture and decide, where's my masking gonna go? Now, to clean this up, like this spot, I don't like that at all. So I'm gonna go underneath it. I'm gonna take my sepia again. I'm gonna go underneath this little area that I don't like. Right there. I'm gonna put a little bit of that sepia in there.
Why didn't you like it?
Because it had a big fat weird end that didn't belong. I wanted to kind of go off to a point. So I just cut the end off with my sepia. Right? If I think that's too harsh, I got water. I know how to use it. Clean brush. Tickle that bottom. And now it's a little more interesting. Okay, back to my sepia. I want this area to be darker, and I really made a mess in here somehow. Not sure why I did that, but let me try and fix it. I'm going to change the shape of this. Just straight up sepia, maybe a little blue. I'm going to change the shape. Let's make that go in more. This wants to go darker. I'm changing the shape because I didn't like the way it laid. That goes behind that bump. So see how I just made this super dark? Pushed it back. Right? It's a little outish right now because it doesn't have enough of that darker shade in other places. So let's put some in here, some in through here along this bottom. There's going to be some in here along this bottom, some spots in here because it's bumpy. And each time I do just a little bit more, it's going to get a little bit more and more interesting. And the end's just not going to be cut off straight. So let's put some more bits, a little something here. So again, every little step gets me one step closer to being finished. And you notice I'm not doing any continuous long lines. Everything is just a little bit here and there. And there, getting a little better.
Wow.
Right? Those whites are way too stark white. They really need to be toned down. I can do it when it dries. I can't do it now because the brown's gonna run into it. So when it's drier, I'll probably glaze it with a pale gold. And that'll soften them, warm it up again, and they won't be quite as harsh as they are now. I'm leaving that for now. But that just told me, boy, look at that value.
Yeah.
I gotta repeat that value now everywhere else in my painting, right? I have to build up to my darkest value. So I know even here in my greens, probably not dark enough. If I want a darken green though, what color am I gonna put in it to make it dark? Anybody know? Red. Red. Always red. I'm a big alizarin crimson person when it comes to trees, to landscapes and things. Back to I didn't want jadeite, I wanted deep sap green because that's what I used on that one. If I take my deep sap, look, I'm gonna mix the color. I am. A little bit, not much. And I probably will go back with them individually also. But if I take that and I put some alizarin crimson, which this is Michael Graham, I'm not a person that only likes one brand. I do have a lot of MG colors, mostly because I had a friend who had an art store that closed and she was selling them for like $5 a tube. So I had a lot of them. But not because they're my favorite, but anything works as long as it's not student grade. If you're trying to use Cotman paint and your colors all look dull and flat, it's because there's a lot of chalk in that paint. It's a binder, it's what they stretch it with, that's why it's cheap. So it's cheap for a reason. So if it's cheap, it's probably not good. There are not many exceptions to that rule. So now I want to darken some places on my dark leaf here. So I just mix a little red into my green, mostly down in this area, I think. I did leave a little lip on the edge of my leaf. I don't know if you guys could see that. I'm going to show you in a second. I'm putting a little bit of dark.
Did you put the red over the dry green or mix the green?
I mixed the green and the red, and I just put it right there. I put it there, and I put it at the tips. You know, as I left a little yellow edge? That's the thickness of the leaf, pretty much, right? When you're doing a flower, a petal's not paper, it has a thickness. So you kind of want to accentuate that. So again, this is my yucky mess. Tickle it in the middle, tickle it in the middle. So my green isn't just solid and flat, right? So I've got variations even there. I think this whole area needs to go much darker. I just can't go over the whole thing because I'll lose all of my little lines in between. So I'm just going to go between them. Right? A little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. I could leave it that rough, which is fine. That's just style, right? I'm not one that usually likes rough edges. So if I just tickle them, and again, there's my word, tickle, and that looks much better now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of making that turn over. So now I know, just from looking at it, that right here, let me put a little bit of red in my green, just a teeny, oops, too much. The teeniest bit of red, by the way. It doesn't take much. It is just such a small amount. But it does just change the color just enough. But I feel like if this is dark, this probably needs to go dark right here. Notice I'm avoiding that yellow edge? Guys see that? Avoiding my yellow just in the bottom. I'm avoiding that little vein. A little bit here. That's enough. Looks nuts, I know. And again, everything I do, I mean, I actually have people going, like, yeah. One time I was doing a portrait class, we were painting Frida, and I took blue and went whoosh, across her face, just to shock people, and then I fixed it. Because you can. Like, you can't mess this up, you can fix it if you did.
She hasn't seen me paint.
Who's laughing at what over here? Again,
You can't mess things
mess
up,
it up.
that's what we're laughing at.
Again, I went a little bit more into there. I'm doing the same thing. My paper towels are there so soppy they won't even suck up water anymore. There, I think that's better.
Yeah.
It is. It still needs a teeny glaze. I put a little too strong on my aqua, I think. So I'm just gonna take a little bit and pull it up over my aqua. Now it feels like it's incorporated a little bit, not so in your face. So, even though I thought that leaf was done, that leaf has come a long way since we've been here. This one totally is not done. It's got so much more to go. It's not funny. This one still needs some more color. Up in here, I still feel like it needs to be golder. I used Tansa yellow last time. I'm gonna go back to my Quinn, which is what I used here anyway. I'm always thinking triads. There's always a triangle with my colors. If I've got red here and here, there's gonna be a spot of it somewhere over there, guaranteed. And it's not even consciously sometimes, I just do it. And I look for it in my painting subconsciously, and I'm like, oh, that can't be right. It's gotta have some red right there. And there's always a place to put a pop of red. It's like that decorating thing. Whenever you're doing a room and you're decorating a living room, put a pop of red. It'll make your room look so much happier, and it pulls everything together. So over here, I feel like I need a really darker shadow, and this all needs to go dark. Again, I'm using that Quinn Gold because it's going into brown for me. And let's make some shapes on here. Good enough. Right? Richer. It's gonna dry later anyway. I'll probably go in and do it 4 more times. Just put some more spots. Yeah, really, I don't even have to look. Because really, I mean, what happens is if you try too hard, it looks forced. So sometimes you don't try too hard. When I'm done though, when I go back and I detail this, I'm gonna be sitting here like this. Later, right? Later, not now. This is not the stage. I'm still mapping, believe it or not. This is my mapping phase. I'm still doing it. I really need some dark here.
Do you work more than one piece at a time?
No, I always say I'm going to and I don't.
I get obsessed too. I get so obsessed. It sucks you in.
Yeah, I dream at night if I haven't finished it and I can't stand it. So like I've had to get up and go paint something because I knew I'd forget what I wanted to do in the morning. Which is nuts, but it happens. I just wanted a little bit of that gold down here, so I added a few little strokes. I'm not wetting it. I'm leaving it hard lines like that just because I can. And I like it. That's bright now. This isn't. This needs some of that going on now. But I can't do too much more until I take this up. I can probably take that off now. Let me show you a couple petals. Want me to take the white off?
Sure.
Let's see what it looks like. Probably a mess. A lot of this gets softened though. But it'll kind of balance with the top right about now. I did not do this with any rhyme or reason. I put weird spots just cause. Okay? It's way too much white. It's way too hard edges. That's what my scrubber is for that I forgot to bring. I don't have a scrubber, but I probably could do it with a brush. If I just take some clean water, which I don't have any of because my water is filled up, so both sides are floating together.
You want me to get you clean water?
I'm just making fun of you because you put both sides over the top. Because I can. So now I want to soften this up. All I got to do is tickle it. Again, I'm dragging a little bit of that orangey tone into some of it. Not all of it. Some of it, mostly the bottom side. So if I just tickle a little bit, maybe I want to put a little bit of that yellow wash I have over here on the bottom. That's kind of pretty. Right, put a little on top too. Right, science. Let's do it here. Right?
Just because you can, huh?
Just because you can, right? And why not? But I kind of like that bright side. Right, I feel like it really needs some on here though. Up the middle. And over here. So again, be really careful with this part, okay? But, so, I'm kind of kidding, but I'm not. I am being careful, believe it or not. But this part doesn't matter. This needs, whoops, I picked up green. That's okay, because I have water. And I have clean yellow over here. And I'm going to put some right there. Make that side glow a little bit.
Yeah.
It's glowing now. It's gonna fade. It's gonna get another coat, guaranteed. For now, I'm gonna call that almost done. I'm gonna walk away and go somewhere else. I do want some more yellow down here before I take this off. That's white is way too white for me. Let's get it all yellow. Let's make it all yellow and be happy.
How
Don't
many
go off the
coats
side.
do you think you'll put on that pumpkin by the time you're done?
4 or 5. It'll need a few more coats. But you notice it's better
So a few
Yeah.
more on
with the
top.
yellow on it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's right.
That white was really stark and ugly. It didn't make me happy at all.
That little white area that you left on the bottom there, it really gives it dimension
Where?
on your pumpkin. Remember you said I'm gonna leave that white there?
Where? Here?
Right down the bottom. No. Come here,
Oh yeah.
right there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where?
I'm avoiding that even with my yellow.
Yeah.
Did you notice? By the way, I got paint dripping all the way down now.
Oh.
I have a brush. I can fix that. It's not a problem. I do have a little scrubber brush. It's called the Exterminator by Rosemary Company from England. And that thing will exterminate anything. I can lift up most of it just with this. And I'm going to darken my shadow anyway. So the only place I really care about is right here on my blue. And look, it's all gone. I'm going to darken this shadow underneath there before I'm done anyway. So it's just going to bury that anyway. It's just going to blend all in and mix all in. But it came off.
So are you scrubbing the paint off when you're using your scrubber? You're taking a layer of paint off?
Yeah, but this only needed the top layer, so the soft brush was fine. But I can take the exterminator and pretty much drag it almost back to white. It has to be a soft brush. Don't make the mistake like a lot of people do. I have a very good artist friend who gave me a brush and she said, this is the best scrubber brush I've ever seen. It's called a scrubby. Well, the thing is hard as a rock. It rips right through your paper. And I'm like, Lori, why would you use that? She's a teacher. And it ruins your paper. If you scrub your paper too much and it's all bumpy, fuzzy, it happens. I've done it. We've all done it. Take a teaspoon. Use the cove side, the bottom side of that spoon, and rub it. It'll push all those fibers back down and smooth them out just enough when it's completely dry. And it will press those fibers back down and in and save your painting.
Oh, wow.
It won't be perfect, it's almost as good. And I don't recommend using white paint, but you do some beautiful puppy and you forget to put whites in the dots of the eyes, I grab my Phil Martin's bleed proof white, dots, done. You know, if I remember and I've had thought about masking and I've done it ahead of time, yeah, that's the preferred method. But if I haven't, I have no problem using a little bit of white here and there for some dots in the eyes, or, you know, just a little spark needed somewhere, go for it. You know, unless you're entering a show where you can't do that, who cares? As long as it's fabulous, we're all happy. I toned down my whites in this up here too. I used a little bit of gold and something, maybe tone there. Not toning the whole way, just there, maybe a little there, right? Makes it a little more organic and not so forced. I'm gonna pop it here too, and that's that. I'm getting away for that. I gotta go back to here real quick. I'm gonna actually wet this whole thing again, at least a little bit. I really need that to go super duper duper dark up against there, right? It's gotta be dark. So if I take some straight up, whatever that is, sepia, I wet it, but I didn't go right to the edge because I want to keep a right clean, crisp edge up against these petals, right in there. But I wet out here. So now, just by doing that, I'm giving it texture, but I'm not messing up this edge, which is why I didn't need to mask that edge. I just went slow for a second, right? But already now,
Yeah.
pushing it back. It's all about the value now. It also needs color, so I can't just use this ugly sepia. Sepia is a pretty ugly brown. It's not really pretty, but it's dark, and I want it dark. And over here, those little things start to come out. So let me just get that edge a little bumpy. And I'm gonna put some color in there. Maybe I wanna mix it up. I don't want it to be all browny brown. Yeah, red iron oxide again. Put some of that in there. Isn't that pretty? That's rich. Right? It's kind of boring though. Let's put some seeds in it. So I'm going back just to my sepia. No water in my brush. So when I put them, they stay. If I have water in my brush, they're going to move. So as long as I'm controlling the paint's not controlling me. Right? So it's all about how much water you have in your brush is how far or not far things going to move on you. But by doing it this way, I'm getting all kinds of variety happening. I wouldn't normally do it, that one little section. I normally would have gone a little further, but I'm just demoing and acting crazy. So again, I want some more of that warm stuff. I definitely want some really light stuff up in here too. How pretty those are mixing together. Right? The center is usually pretty dark, so let's make it dark. Right? Now, almost no water in my brush. Grab some of this brown again. I don't want that to be a weird shape. I want to make it a gradual dark center. So just put some spots. Now we're starting to get a feeling. Again, this is an underpainting. I've got to go to negative paint later to get all the shapes. I kind of forgot about that side over there, didn't I? Let's put some the orangey red stuff happening. Too much water. Put some of this orangey red. You leaving us? Okay, again, I'm not putting a solid edge on this side, because this side, that is just coming over the flower. Right? So I'm putting all these little dots, because that's all those little bumpy things. And I didn't like the shape, so you notice I changed it while I was doing this. So that's a little better. Again, I'm going back to my brown. Want some spots in here. They're not gonna go far, because I've got very little water in my brush. If I decide, oh, I wish I left some more lights in this area, don't need to, according to my picture. But if I decide I want to, if I took a clean brush and just water, I could push some of that away. Well, it's not really working, it's probably too wet. It'll move stuff, right? So I can change my textures just by doing that, okay? So it's not beautiful because I'm painting upside down and backward and I don't know what I'm doing like that.
It's pretty nice.
So I am gonna come in and kind of clean it up a little bit. Just a little. Am I boring anybody yet?
No.
Do you want me to quit soon?
No.
Over it? Okay. I'm putting some little dark ones. Again, these come forward. I don't know if you can see that. See these little ones?
Yeah.
Which is why I pulled my petals in further than need be. Because when I come in and do this now, it's in front of my petals. Right? I'm gonna put some dots in here so that doesn't look crazy. But I can also change the shape. I had a divot there. So I'm actually, make this it's a little too spotty, right? Water, tap in. Soften some of them. Not all of them, some of them. Okay? Soften some. That's gonna dry. I can't do any more till it dries really because I would have to do some detail and I can't do that while it's wet and I got a puddle going on right there. So I'm gonna leave that, but that is the darkest part of my entire picture.
Yeah.
Right? Is it dark enough yet? Probably not because when it dries it's gonna get too light. Right now I feel like I could leave it there. I don't want it to be so obnoxiously dark that I hate it. And if you notice I put 3 or 4 colors in mine. It looks like 1 or 2. Boring. So I probably need to pop a pink in there. Or aqua, not sure which. But again, I'm starting to like the shape of it now. I'm starting to get happier with it. I still need a little bit more just here because it's making me nuts here. Put a few dots. Okay, I want my dark to go a little further around than I have it right now. I don't know, I just like that a little heavier on the bottom now. So,
Nice.
not, I mean, I realize that everybody thinks, yes, I'm a really detail painter, but this is how I paint. I mean, I will go in and detail later. A lot of it's already coming along. Each little step I do is bringing me one step closer to being detailed. But I could leave things just as they are and be done. I mean, some people would say that pumpkin's finished, right? And it very well could be. If that's the level of detail you're looking for, that's fine. You don't have to do any more than that to it.
Right.
I probably would, but
So when you're saying you were good details, like, what would you do?
well, like I would want these creases to be a little more prominent
Oh, okay.
or a little more exact in some places. So if I want it to be a little more prominent, I'm probably going to be a little more careful. I'm going to grab some of my, I don't know, burnt orange or something. Maybe put a little bit of.
Right on your oxide is
Oh.
over here.
There we go. Thank you. A little bit of red iron oxide, and a little bit of that red, and maybe I just want to increase the detail in this crease. Right? So I'm going to come in, I'm going to do that carefully. I'm not going to just be throwing paint at this point. This is where I'm going to make all these decisions, and they're going to be important decisions because whatever I put is really going to show up now, right? I want this one to be really dark right there. But I don't want it to be dark the whole way. Maybe it gets dark again right there. Right? And again, I'm probably still gonna come in and decide which way I want this shadow to go. Sometimes I want it to go both ways. If it's a divot that's facing at me, it doesn't have a hard line. It's a soft line on both sides. Right? So this one I'm gonna make soft on both sides right here. And this I might just do a little crease. But Zach just told me this bottom of my pumpkin needs to go darker. Because that's way too stark, right? So maybe I just take a little bit of that red iron oxide. It's not exactly the color of a pumpkin, but that's okay. That's what I got in my hand. And I want to darken this one. Right there. Right? Terrible, horrible mess. Boom, gone. Whoops, I don't want to lose that light. But a little bit more. Red iron oxide. Right here. This one's going to go darker. I'm going to go darker, even so, while it's wet. Into here. Into here. Into here for sure. Right? Looks like a mess. I want more in here. I want more in here too. Right? Big mess. Fix. So there's my mess, there's my fix.
Would you darken the cast shadow too?
Definitely. I thought it was dark enough when I first did it, and then I realized it was not even close. So again, I want to increase this one. I lost this one. Whoops, wrong one. I lost this one here. I lost this one here. Yeah, that's terrible. That's what I love doing, is making a mess and then fixing it.
That's amazing.
Okay, so again, we don't have to try that hard. But the bottom of that's really got weight now, you know, which means this is nowhere near dark enough. That's darker than my shadow, right? Can't do that because that's wet. But again, that's better. There's a shadow that goes behind this stem, right? So if we take that same red iron oxide, that was our darkest color, it goes up from here, and it goes a shape, and then up and over, boom, boom, boom. This really needs to be done on dry, because it's a hard line. But it still gets a little lighter as it comes over here, so I'm just gonna drag that. And now we have a shadow from our stem, goes right to there.
Yeah.
Right?
You
That's a
want
hard
that-
line.
You want a hard edge, right?
I want a hard edge, yep. I'm gonna change the shape, don't like that very much. But, yeah, I want a hard edge there because that is actually a cast shadow.
Yeah.
Which makes this not look so dark anymore.
Right.
Even my shadow starts out darker and gets lighter, and there's some lines going up through it, which I lost. When it dries, I have to go back and put those lines back. Can't do it now, it's just gonna splush everywhere. But I like that better now, and it kind of matches with my weight on the bottom. This is gonna go darker. Always darker. Sometimes when I make it darker though, I'm just gonna glaze it with Quin. It's gonna make it darker because there's more pigment, but I'm gonna get rid of that dirty feeling that this color is giving me that I don't like. And the more I look at it, the more I don't like it. I do want my shadow to be a little darker right where it meets the bottom now. Let me punch these up at the same time. Right where it meets at the bottom's a little darker. And it's probably a little darker on this edge because there's a light spot. Then it gets darker as it comes down. So let's just do that. And my shadow goes from dark into light into dark again. Right? Because even your shadow has dimension. So again, my paper towels are so wet. Let me just tickle that a little bit because I don't like the shape. Now I feel better about my shadow. Right?
Oh, yeah.
When I darken this, it'll balance more. I can't. I can't put a glaze over it. I could just put a glaze in there right now, but I can't because this is wet. They're gonna mingle together and make a big mess. So,
So if you're working at home, would you use your blow dryer or would you just walk away until it's?
it depends if the dogs need to go out or not. I
get it.
usually would take my blow dryer out. I have a blow dryer on my counter that's there 24/7. That is just there for everybody to use. So I do use it a lot because I'm impatient and I hate to wait. Can we plug, assistant girl? No? Next Sunday night on Zoom, she's going to tell Mama on me that I was mean.
She's been my assistant for lots of times.
I've assisted her many times in her quilting company. Sue is a master quilter, has a company called Sue Pelland Design.
What's the name of it?
Sue Pelland, Pelland Design. And she has quilting schools for applique that are absolutely brilliant. So if you're a quilter and you know somebody who is, look up Sue Pelland Design. She's very well known in the quilt world. We were in Houston one time, I'll never forget, she was new to it at the time. Okay, it was 15 years ago. We were in Houston, and people are coming up to her booth going, "Oh my God, it's Sue Pelland, can I take a picture with you so I can prove to my guild that I met you?" And at first she was like, turn all red and be like, okay. Now she's like, hey, yeah, let's take a picture together. You know, she got used to it
Like
real
my
quick.
famous sister Gina, who's the most amazing watercolor artist
she's
I've
great.
ever seen. So we all have our specialties.
I beat her when she was a child. She just says whatever I want her to say now. Yeah. I was a mean,
Who is oldest?
I'm the oldest.
You are oldest.
And then we have another one
I was gonna
between
make
us.
you guess.
No, that's not
Sure,
her.
I said.
She's the baby of the family.
Oh.
I'm the old lady. I'm the one with the 8 grandkids.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I'm old.
Keep that in
I'm
mind.
faking it though. I'm faking
Penny,
the
how
old
many?
age thing quite well, I think.
How many grandkids?
11.
Penny, you have 11?
So what does your middle sister do?
She's a brilliant computer person, but she crochets like you've never seen in your life. I've never seen anything like it. She is the most amazing crochet person I've ever seen. I crochet, but not like that. Okay, I was gonna do something and I forgot what it was.
Darken the shadow?
Yeah, I can't do that yet. It's probably not dry enough.
Still not dry.
You know what? I'm gonna darken it anyway. I'm gonna darken it with
Pink.
I don't have any purple, so I'm gonna mix a little bit of my blue and a little bit of my alizarin together and make something a little more on the purple side. So alizarin's here. If I didn't take them all out at once, I'd just find them in there, but I made a mess. So I'm gonna make this really dark purple. It shouldn't be this purple, but in my world it wants to be today. I just want something that's super duper duper dark.
Which blue are you using?
I don't know, Phthalo. I think it's the only blue on my palette, so that's the one I'm using for everything today. Color to me is not that important. It's what it looks like on the paper. So if I don't like the color, I can put something next to it. So I'm weird like that. So I want this to be darker just underneath, right? I can reshape my pumpkin now because it's darker than my pumpkin color. I like that little bump in that one though. Right? Oh, there's a leaf back there. So I'm going to avoid that little leaf because that's lighter right there. But I don't want my shadow to be that dark, and I don't want my shadow to be purple. So what do? I don't have my cobalt with me.
It doesn't look purple.
I'm going to grab some turquoise. That pretty QOR turquoise that I like so much. I'm going to put that beside it. Right? And then I want it to go away. So that's what water does. So now, mix them a little bit better. So I started with a really kind of dark purple in there, and it doesn't look purple. It just looks dark. Okay, if I just went with the cobalt teal, which is beautiful though, with the way it's happening here, it just would have been like deep, deep, deep aqua, and it would have been kind of in your face and didn't belong in the picture. I'm just trying to make it almost black to balance with this. Okay, it's about about value now. So color is not so important as value in my world. I mean, they say color gets all the credit, but value does all the work. It's true. It's about value. I really want to do a couple of those. I probably could. If I take off this, my thing should be dark enough. Now I'm going to have a nice crisp edge, except for where I went overboard, on my flower, which I could not have gotten with all these crazy layers without masking fluid, right? So now I have a nice back there. I want to make them brighter and prettier than what they are. So how do I do that? I make them brighter. I use less yellow. So if I want to put a light one, if I want to make this one light, it's kind of behind some other guys. By the way, I do this a lot. I take my pencil and I say, how in the world, I mean, I drew this thing 2 weeks ago. I don't know what's going on here. I don't remember anymore. This one's going up and over. This one's in the back. This is coming up and over. So I want to do that petal, right? So, and it's dark here. And it's got a shadow over it. Not going to worry about the shadow till later. I first got to paint the petal. And it's got a lot of little lines on it. So, yeah, I would love some clean water. Want to get it, Ben? Yeah. I'll make my assistant do everything.
Yeah,
Okay. So again, I'm taking just, get a smaller brush. Can't, it's dirty. I'm going to just use this color again. Remember I did a couple before, just this color? I did go, this is the Quin Gold again.
Oh, yeah.
Quin Gold is the bomb in my world.
Yeah, yeah.
In opera.
Who makes that one?
This one's Daniel Smith. The Winsor Newton is very similar. It looks different when it's dry, but when it's wet, it looks almost exactly the same. So, it's a good color. She's pokey. Okay, so it has come a long way. I'm going to put a few brights in here, and at least it'll pull it together. It'll kind of look finished. I will finish this, and I will send a picture you can use. By the way, let me show you where we started. Thank you, Sue. Where we started today was here. This is how it was when I came. I don't know if you remember all that lightness and nothingness. There was a lot of nothingness here. Okay, there was a lot of underpainting. Oh, I had done one more picture. I had done this ahead of time. So that's where we started. So it has come a long way closer to finish. Let me go back to my picture now. So I'm going to put just a couple in here just to show you quick.
Enough?
Yeah, she only puts it on one side though.
Oh, okay.
Bev goes on the top so they mix together. She just does one side so it's all dirty anyway.
I can get you more water. I don't paint. I don't know you put water in both sides.
It's hard to get good help these days.
Thank you, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Very funny.
Okay, so this one, the little lines go this way. As they come out though, they kind of tend to turn in. So I'm kind of following that pattern, but I can't go over these petals, right? So I could mask these off if I wanted, or I could just pretend I know what I'm doing and be careful. Again, I made stripes.
Oh.
Now I'm going to soften some, not all. Sometimes it's just one side. This is what's making the ridges. I want it to be super light up there, though, and I want it to be much darker here where it's going behind these other ones. I'm going to do a little bit more down in here. And then when I come up here with a clean brush, I'm just going to drag a little bit. So the top of that petal is coming around and into the light. Right? Yeah. I'm doing a really awful fast job without looking at the picture, but you get the idea, I hope. But I will go back and put a few little harder lines later. But I just want to get a feel for now. And if you notice, I didn't put anything on that edge.
Right.
I didn't touch that. I want some of these edges to stay white, to separate them, to give them some light, to give them some life, which they're not gonna have if I make everything dark. This one here, I don't know how that one's going. Something over it, hard to tell. So again, this is kind of where I have to stop myself every now and then and say, okay, this is a petal. No, that's actually, this is a leaf behind a petal. So this is a petal. This is a green leaf. So I'm not doing that one yet. So I'm gonna take some, again, gold. This is the petal here. It's going this way. I'm gonna put some little lines in it. I want the bottom to be darker than the top. Make a mess, pull it together. And again, I want the top to stay pretty light. I made a mess down there. That's okay. So I'm just gonna leave that for now. Normally I wouldn't do a petal beside a petal, by the way, because they blend together. I just wasn't thinking. How's that one going? This one is here. So we're gonna call this the next petal. I'm gonna avoid that one. Don't know what's going on. We'll call this another petal. There's another one. So I'm gonna skip this one and go to this one. This one will be behind. This is our next petal in our lineup. I'm gonna come in here and it's gonna go this way. Now I'm gonna be a little more careful because I'm really making a mess because I'm not paying attention. Darkest on the bottom. I wanna go darker. I want darker, I want purer pigment. By the way, a lot of times I do this. If I want just a teeny bit of water, if my brush is just a little too dry, if I do that, I can't tell how much water I'm putting in my bristles, right? If I look at the dot and do that, I can pick up just the amount of water I need without diluting my brush and my paint. So now it's a little more movable. I still want it darker just at the bottom here. So I'm touching those same lines, but just on the bottom part. And leaving that edge kind of light. That's enough. Wrong side of my tub, there's no water.
Here.
And now I'm just gonna do a little wet into wet drag again. Just where I want it, and I'm gonna leave some lights. That's that one. I'm leaving the top super light. I wanna go to the one behind it. It's going the other direction. Taking my straight up paint. It's going this way and over. Right, down here it's gonna be really dark, I already know it. And it's gonna be dark in here too. So now I'm going this way. Right, I'm turning that. A little bit of water. And I'm gonna drag some of it. I'm not even sure this is what the picture looks like, but I don't care. My picture. So now this one went behind because it's darker.
Oh, yeah.
Right? See that, Miss Penny? You sleeping on us yet? Okay.
She's starving, she hasn't eaten yet.
Oh.
Someone's going across the street for pizza, I can tell. Do you like pizza? Nice.
Gluten-free.
Yeah, I didn't think so. They probably have gluten-free pizza over there. They have it everywhere now. Okay, so in here, I know that I want this to go even darker. I'm just gonna darken it a little bit. I'm gonna darken down here just a little bit more because I want to accent the fact that the top is way lighter. And this one's gonna go darker. In order for this one to be light.
So Gina's the one that'll paint all night long, and I'm the one that needs to be in bed by 10 o'clock.
Yeah, so I am gonna quit here in a few minutes, guys. I know I could do this all night too, but I have a long ride home. And I think Susan has to feed me before I go home now that I know they're hungry.
Are you interested in the workshop, Gina? Later on? Yeah?
Now, a workshop, what I like to do, and it's up to the workshop itself, what I like to do is, say you want to do a landscape or a portrait. I send a line drawing, so everybody is doing the exact same thing and the drawing is good. Nothing worse than doing a portrait, and the portrait is drawn badly, you can paint all day long, it's transparent, it's never going to look like a person. So, and if you're learning to paint skin tones, you really don't need to learn to draw. So you can either draw it yourself at home, or you can transfer it. You can project it. You can do whatever you want, or you can draw it yourself. But as long as it gets on the paper, I don't care how it gets there.
Do you use pencil for portraits?
For portraits, when you're doing, you just use pencils, you like take a kneaded eraser and kind of lift up some of the pigment, or you just paint right over it?
I do.
Okay.
I lift up
Because
the
I
pigment.
find it still creeps through, but I use really inexpensive watercolor, so.
I want this to be a green leaf behind here. So now I never use the same, I never mix my colors. Well, let's just take a little yellow. And again, I'm just doing this just to put some pretty color before we quit. And I'm gonna drag this up. Now see how I got a pretty nice bright leaf now? Nowhere near enough green, but I got more green, I know how to use it. Put some more. And now it's just a little more interesting than just being solid.
Nice.
Right? There is a leaf behind here too. I could throw it in, but nah.
You could be painting all night.
I could be painting all
long.
night. This one has pop of green, and this one goes right off the side, so it's gonna keep this flow. Okay? Also, whenever you're thinking about your composition, I like balance. I've got yellow here, I've got yellow here, I've got yellow here, I've got orange here, so I pop some orange in here, and I've got some over in here. I'm always thinking about balance within the colors and the composition, okay? So I do a lot of changing my compositions. I took 200 pictures this day until I found that I could adjust that I actually liked. So it isn't like, even if I'm drawing from life and I'm teaching a class and we're working from a still life, I'm gonna do some thumbnails first, because there's nothing worse than a bad composition and a nice painting, you know? I mean, it doesn't work. So if you're gonna have, you know, a bad composition, then don't start, right? When you have it the way you want it, then you start. If you're gonna draw a portrait, make sure it's drawn really well before you start, or you're not gonna like it no matter how well it's painted. So drawing to me is the number one thing. I've spent 2-3 days sometimes just on the drawing phase, okay? If I want to paint loose and flowy and wild, I may just make a few little sketchy lines. But if I want to do this type of work, I've got to put the drawing time in, because it's important, you know? I mean, you can transfer, people project. I enjoy drawing. I'm good at drawing. Some people just aren't. Some of the biggest watercolorists in the country that win all the national shows, you probably know all their names, they win every single show there is, don't draw at all.
They project.
They project everything. They transfer, they project everything. One of them said to me, why would I draw? I know how to paint. Okay, but it's not, when I first heard that, I was like, that's cheating, but it's not anymore. That's what people do, and you can't fight it, you know? It's a tool.
It saves days, like you said, days of
It
doing
does.
drawings.
It does save days, but if you enjoy the process, draw. You know? I mean, I can draw, I could project it and be done in 5 minutes, or I don't know, half an hour, whatever. Or I can spend 3 days drawing. Well, guess what? I got 3 days. You know? And I'm not out to be the most famous watercolorist in the country like they
You're
are.
involved in every step too, so you can say, hey, I created this from start to finish, I didn't trace anything.
Yeah. So I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna call this done for the day. It's got a long way to go, I know. I actually got further than I expected to. Yeah, I didn't expect to get this far. So, but thank you for having me. This is really fun. But we've come a long way. I will take a picture. I will finish it just so I can show you what it came out like. I don't even know what it looks like because I've been on top of it all night. So, by the way, whenever you're done with the picture, in my studio, which is like, I don't know, 25 feet long, I put it at the very end on the counter leaning on the cabinet, and I walked back 15, 20 feet 30 times during a painting.
Yeah.
You have to see it from here. Those ropes in that museum are not to keep you from touching it, they're to keep you at the proper viewing distance, because anyone can unhook it. That's where you're supposed to view a painting from. So if you're right on top of it, all you see is flaws. When you're back here, all of a sudden, the bumps on my pumpkin don't look so terrible, you know? So,
That's great.
I should have finished that one flower. No. Everyone's tired, and it's way after 9.
Yeah.
And we're all